event is Inner Journey for Transformational Coaching. A slightly different topic this time, nothing to do with external competencies and skill building. But today we're going to focus the internal part of it. And I'm very happy to announce and invite our speaker. A round of applause. Manish, thank you so much for accepting our invite and being here today. Thank you. I know you're not keeping well, but still you accepted and managed to do that. So friends, please welcome Manish. And I'm just going to have a brief introduction about Manish. So Manish Srivastava is a senior faculty coach and a co-director of Social Presencing Theatre, SPT, at Presencing Institute, MIT, USA. He integrates contemplative art, poetry, and systems thinking to facilitate awareness-based systems change labs. His clients include top sustainability leaders across MNCs, international government, UN agencies, and NGO sector. And he has published his inner leadership journey as a poetic pathway in the book, Trading Armour for a Flower. And for today's session, Manish also made a special request if you could bring your journal, notepad, pen, pencil, and an open heart. It would be helpful if you, log in from your laptop or computer with a functional camera. We may do some embodied activities that may require some movement space in front of your work table. So people who are hiding behind the camera, you may want to come in. If your bandwidth allows, you can unmute yourself or unmute your videos. So, and then I'm going to invite Manish. Again, Manish, thank you so much for accepting our invite on behalf of ICF chapter, ICF Pune chapter. Thank you so much. Friends, as usual, we'll have a session by Manish, whatever activities he's planning, and we'll have Q&A at the end. Yeah. Manish, all over to you.
Thank you so much, Vivek, and welcome everyone. It's a great opportunity to be with you all. I know you are all accomplished coaches and professionals, and you have great life journeys with you. And all of that makes me humble, actually. I was just looking at you. I've heard some of your names, and I know I know Vivek, and Vivek shared with me about all the wonderful work that this community has been doing. So I feel really privileged that I'm here to share some of my knowledge, some of my experiences, and I shared this with a sense of humility that you have rich experiences and knowledge of your own, and you have taken many inner journeys. So I'm going to bring some insights I have gathered, both from my inner journey and working with others, and hope that they may open a new window for you. Now, when we say topic like inner journey, it's very very personal, and it basically means the journey we take to develop ourselves, and it has a huge spectrum. There are people who have taken so many journeys, not just because of age or experience, but because of what their life brought and how they engaged with it. You know, some of us would have taken a deep journey just within this pandemic. So there are people who are on this side of the spectrum, and for them, maybe they find some new inspiration here, some resonance here, and some validation here that yes, this is my journey. And there are those who are kind of maybe at the beginning of a journey. You have taken many journeys and you're beginning of a new journey. And for you, there may be a pathway which may resonate with my pathway, but that is our pathway, not the pathway, because there is no the pathway when we talk about life experiences. So you may get something. And there are those like me in between who may find some insight, some triggers, some explorations. So with that, I want to invite all of you to this journey, knowing that we bring diversity and we bring richness, and all of that is our ingredient for our inner journey. So how we are going to do this? I think we wrote, there are three three parts of this, these 2 hours or the time we have. The first part is why do we need inner journey? So that was one question that Vivek and Jayashree asked, and so I'm going to reflect on that based on some of my work from Presencing Institute. And the second part is I will offer a pathway that I took, which is also published in my book. What is one pathway towards this journey? And I know that this is a pathway because I know there are many pathways. So it's like when you say you have to go from X place to Y place on Google Map, it shows you 4 routes, right? So there are a million routes, and I'm just showing one. And there is no agreement that there is one place to go to. So that's also not there in this case, right? So we all have our own destinations and journeys. And the third part would be we'll do some practice together. We'll do some practice and some embodied practice to see like one quick and simple ways to unlock something in our lives. And there are a million ways. There will be one way that I thought, let's do, if we have gathered as coaches and facilitators, let's do something together. So that's the flow. As Vivek was saying, I developed a little backache a few days back, not little, actually, it was quite a bit. It was almost like a big spasm on my lower back. And initially I was struggling with it for a few days. Why this, why that? And then suddenly it occurred to me that all the aches are an invitation to an inner journey, right? I mean, that's what I am learning and in a way sharing with people. I said, oops, so let's look at it. What is this opening for me? So I'm now taking this journey. What does this mean? What is this opening? What does this want? I'm sharing this because this makes me also compassionate towards all of you, towards everyone on the Zoom. So I would be sometimes moving, standing, stretching, or even we can take a break whenever needed. And I expect you to also take care of your health while we sit on Zoom, while we sit on this. So that's my request. So with that, let me share my screen. And so it's an interesting topic. I also thought it's very interesting. And let's dive a little into it and see what it brings to us. So first of all, the question is, why is inner journey important? And I'm going to bring a little framework, which this is a drawing from one of our friends at Presencing Institute, that often in our work and in our life, we are looking outwardly into what we want to achieve. But the real blind spot, which many of you as coaches understand, lies within us. So turning the beam of observation and looking within, that is the greatest resource. What does that mean? That means that often we are wanting to achieve outstanding results. And in terms of coaching, it is possibly want to develop a coaching business, develop a great brand, have great outcomes. When I provide coaching, when I work as a coach, to have great outcomes, that's the result we want. But then the results depend on the process, which is how we do it. So what lies below what is how. You see a great painting, okay, that's a great painting, Mona Lisa, and then you see how is the, okay, how it is painted, what is the process, what did they go. So in our work, it is coaching practice, our process excellence, all of that. And Vivek was saying this has been mostly the focus of our work in these gatherings. But what lies below this is the source, the who. Because Mona Lisa is created the way it is created because the painter went through a life journey and experience, and not just life journey, but contemplated life journey. We all go through a journey unwitnessed, but if we witness our journey and contemplate on it, and then it transforms into something. So that cultivates our presence as a coach. Our presence as a coach, how much I'm present as a container for other, my container need to be worked. My container need to have a good space. My container or container of my awareness need to have good space. It is expanded. It can hold. It can really create value. So for that container for me to be a container for others, I need to work with that. And that creates my presence, my own inner work. And Otto Scharmer, who is the co-founder of Presencing Institute and my colleague, says that is the inner place. That's a blind spot of leadership. Because often leaders are focused on what and how, like outcomes and strategy, but who? But you understand, like your work is about that. So you understand as coaches. But what about us? Sometimes, what about us? What is our own journey? And how do we pay attention to that? So that's one aspect I wanted to quickly bring. When we talk about this aspect, when we talk about this aspect of what, how, and who, another way another thing I wanted to bring is that as coaches, the quality of our outcome depends on the quality of our relationship, quality of our conversation. And that depends on the attention that we pay. So the attention that we pay and the intention with which we pay attention is like, what are we paying attention to in this conversation? And where are we coming from when we are paying that attention? That is a very essential aspect. So when we look at, I think one of the core skill is listening and conversation, right? That's our fundamental skill, right? How do we listen and how do we hold the conversation? So some of you might have known this. In theory, you are presencing. We talk about 4 levels of listening, and I'll quickly visit from a coaching perspective that would be kind of a background to what we will talk today. First level of listening is actually no listening. And the image that you see here, it is a bit like that I am in my own room, in my own worldview, all that I know is inside this circle. All that I know, all my skills, talent, everything is here, my identity. And all doors and windows are closed. In fact, I've put some mirrors out there, so I only see myself. Now that's an egocentric view, right? I'm in the center of my world. I download my judgments, and the conversations are kind of nice conversations, mostly confirming. So sometimes, it happens though. This is not the coaching space. We are not in this space. But I'm sharing because coaching is a helping relationship, and any helping relationship, there is a risk of being here too. And sometimes we are here. Sometimes we just tell there's a lot of tell here. Okay, here is your problem. Do this, 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 and it will be solved. But that's not what we do. But this is good to know as a context. Now, when we open our mind, then we are a bit like this. We walk to the edge of our room, draw out the curtains, open the window, and look at the world outside. And what we see, differences. We become aware, there's a factual listening. We become aware that the world is different from my worldview. I have a worldview, I am a worldview, and there is another worldview out there. And so the conversation, a coaching conversation, could be confrontating, could be tough, could be problem solving, could be noticing, I see that you come from a different world. Now that's important to see the differences, not to see that I am a man, I'm speaking to a woman, and she's talking about her struggle in a male dominant organization. Knowing that I don't know, what I know and what I don't know is very important. I remember one of my clients and later a friend, Sonia Lorenzo, who was mayor of a county in Philippines. And I met her once there. I was shadowing her for the whole day. And she was an amazing leader, amazing coach. And she said, Manish, the inner journey starts with not knowing. It starts with not knowing. So this is the beginning, that looking out and saying, I don't know this. Maybe you have a different reality. And that's when I start saying differences. But if we go further and when we open our heart, and this is the space of coaching, which you are very familiar to, when we open our heart, we are literally stepping out of our own view. My view gets little lighter, my own worldview, my own reality. And I step out and see it and feel it from other person's eyes or other person's shoes. Now, there is something important. If I have to get into your shoes, I need to take out mine. I cannot. I was telling this to my son. I was practicing and he was listening, and he's 9-year-old, and he was like, he was laughed. Do people really try to get into shoes with their shoes on? I said, yes, as adults, sometimes we do. So we are still holding on to our reality, and we are stepping into another person's reality, which is not possible. So we need to let go of my own worldview to step into another's worldview. And that in coaching, to letting go, I don't know what it is. And I step into to feel how you feel. That creates a great relationship. That creates a great coaching conversation. However, what is transformational coaching totally, really? There are many definitions to it, surely. I am bringing it from this perspective. This is what I think. This is the space when we also open mind, open heart, and open will. I let go of all fear. I also let go of my identity as a coach. And that's, what does that mean? that means that my own sense of self, my own sense of identity, my sense of ego starts dissolving a bit. And so now I have a peripheral vision, which means that I am now attending to not just you, which is level 3, listening 3, but I'm attending to you, me, and the space in between. So space becomes an important aspect. And space is not just as physical space. Space is the space between our verses, the space between our conversation, the time interval, which is also called, my teacher Arvana Hayashi calls it Ma. It's a Japanese concept of space in between. Anything valuable happens in the space in between. Most valuable part of a cup is the empty part. The most valuable part of the window is that where there is no window, the empty part. The most important part of the door is the empty part. So that space in between our conversations and between you and me, when I start attending to that, I start attending to the future that wants to emerge. You and I dissolve in the same backdrop. That's one of my poems I'll read later. You and I dissolve in the same backdrop, and we both are in service of what wants to emerge. So initially, if you see, the level 1 starts with, okay, just here's a coach, whatever comes, I'll give a downloaded thing. No, that's not what we do anyways. But that's a risk. Sometimes we can get into, sometimes even I can get into. But then there is a bit around level 2, which is I and you. I and you are different. You are this, I am different. And we start noticing the differences, and that helps in solving problems. Level 3 is I in you. I start feeling you. So there is a bit of that, right? And level 4 is that we dissolve in the space. I, you, and the space. And we are now being in service of the shared space. So it's not coach and coachee. And sometimes maybe you have to, I have stepped consciously into the spaces with my coachees or even in other conversations where that happens. This happens in deep conversations with our friends, when you almost know what is going to come because you're attending to the whole. This is something you see in football, right? Or orchestra, where each player kind of is so tuned into the shared body, social body, that they exactly know where to move, and they move like magic. It's recorded in one of the reflections of these moments by one of the baseball players, I think Babe Ruth, who says that there are moments when I am holding the bat and the ball comes in very slow motion, and I have hundreds of shots to choose from, and I know exactly which one to choose. My team knows, my opponents know, the whole stadium knows. Everyone comes to a standstill. Now that is a moment of shared presence, collective presence. When you present into that moment, when we know what is emerging, we can be in that moment too. And to me, it appears a bit like this, that now I am noticing you, you are noticing me, I am listening to you, you're listening to me. There's a lot of empty shared space, and my reflections, my interventions are emerging from that space. And here, often, as you know, I have, and you will agree maybe, that often our coaches come to help us. They come to show us an aspect of us that we were not seeing. This is level 4. So actually, if you see, Otto Sharma says, what is the indicator? An indicator of level 1 is that you are in a conversation, a coaching conversation maybe, and nothing happens to you. So you come out of that conversation with just, you did what you know. So you know what you know at the end of it, which means it was pure downloading. Level 2, you come out of a conversation, you feel a little challenged, which means you saw something different, and that challenged your perspective, that challenged your worldview. So you're moving towards transformation, because transformation is form needs to change, right? Level 3 is that you come out touched, something moved your heart, something touched you about other person's reality. So there is a sense of being touched. And I'm not saying touchy-feely, I'm saying that you felt there is something that happened to you. Level 4 conversation, when we step into that conversation, we cannot come out of a level conversation without being transformed. That means something shifts in the way I see, hold, and be in the world. And so this is an intent. So this is the attention. Attention is level 4. But what is the intention? Intention is when I go in such conversation, I go, what is this person showing up to teach me? What is this opening for me? Just like when this backache happens, what is it in service of, right? So that's the, I would say, kind of level 4, which just as a reminder, for some of us might have experienced a lot of it. So this may be a good reminder of that. So at this stage, maybe let's pause for a minute and maybe a few minutes and see if you have any reflection or question or anything, which is kind of a background framing to what is transformational coaching, one view, and why is it important as coaches? Any thoughts, any reflections, then we can move further.
Manish, do you want to stop sharing your screen?
Oh yeah, I forgot that my screen is on.
Thank you. Yeah, friends, please feel free to unmute and share your views. And if your bandwidth allows, do come on camera as well.
I can share my experience. I am new to this. I'm an entrepreneur. And coaching is something new. And recently, I've been doing extensive amount of coaching. And what I understood is, first I need to connect with myself first, understand myself from a coach perspective. So sitting here, I'm able to understand the journey or the transformation I have been going through. First, I was listening from my own experiences. Then in fact, there has been a journey in human resource and running a business and running teams, developing, growing. In spite of that, how much ever empathy you think you have, when you come and sit in front of your client and when you're coaching, I think it changes. There, I came to understand how much of, you know, preconceived notion or thoughts or habits or beliefs I have in, this is so easy. Why is this person not able to come to a conclusion was the first thought I had. Why do then I moved, and then I could start feeling the empathy, and my questioning changed, my conversation changed. Recently, I had a conversation with a peer coach also saying, this doesn't seem to be empathy. This seems to be much more than empathy, because even if I'm empathizing, I'm still in my head. I'm not in his head or her head. So I'm able to understand, and thanks for putting that beautifully, as you call it a space. I like the way you called it a space, because I don't think there is a name for it. And I like the way you called it a space. Yeah, so in that way, for me, as a person who is going into this transformation myself, it has been very interesting journey, and this did make sense. It hit me, when you said that space. And thanks to that, just thought I'll share this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vijayashree, and I really appreciate the honesty and courage with which you are taking this journey. And I think that is the starting point, to notice what is coming in my way, my own preconceptions, and that's beautiful. Thank you. And I have Anil here who wants to share something. Anil, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Manish. What you narrated, I was reminded of something. Some of us are associated with an NGO called Head Held High Foundation, and they have a flagship program called GAP, Global Action Against Poverty or on Poverty. So when I had attended this introduction to GAP, Manisha Dahat, she was the head coach. She is the founder of this HHH actually, and she gave us her thoughts about the whole thing. And one thing that caught my attention, you see, this was about close to 3 years ago. I've been into coaching for nearly 7 years now. And what she said was, we have to coach the change makers who are working at grassroots level and they are struggling and they are underprivileged. most of them, and they are struggling to come to terms with their situations, their realities, and to transform lives of their community. So when you coach, when you sit in front of them, you must understand that there is no us and them.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that actually has totally changed my perspective towards coaching. And probably during last 1.5 years, whatever coachings I have been involved in, I have tried, and to some degree I have been able to succeed in that. So till that time, all the judgments keep coming into our head, all the future facing, we keep pace forward while the coach is speaking. We keep pacing forward, like, okay, what is he or she going to say? How should I go and show the reflection? What should I say? What should I ask? But now all that has changed. Now, I think what has happened is I'm now completely in that moment with the coaching, totally. And we are both, as you said, we are both on that ground, in that space. And then I think the coaching has completely changed for me.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much, Anil.
And I thank Manisha for that one sentence that really changed my perspective completely.
Which one?
There is no us and them.
Yeah,
and that right. applies to every coach, you see. It applies to everyone.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much for bringing a very grounded grassroots experience to this. And we have 2 more comments. Let's take these 2 comments and then we will move on. So Ketki, your hand was up first, and then Madhuri.
Yeah, thanks, Manish. And due to bandwidth and also the fact that I'm in a different country, so it's early morning for me, I'm not going to switch on my video if that's okay. So I actually was curious to understand a little bit more about the space part of it, because, and I have been coaching for about 8-10 years now. And I completely actually agree with what Anil just said, that, there has to be no them and us. Having said which, what's coming to my mind is that at the end of the day, we are still coaching as a profession, which means that there is a client and there's an outcome they want. And somewhere while, one gets kind of absorbed into that space, there's also an eye on, to be very honest, on time to say, okay, now 10 minutes left, I need to extract myself from this space and then figure out, have we achieved what we wanted to achieve? Is there any outcome that's come from this session? And so I just feel, and I'm just wondering, what am I doing to the space then? It's like Shant Pani hai, usme ungli dal ke suddenly I'm creating a ripple in that flowing space. And I'm curious to know how to kind of just transition and more smoothly,
Beautiful question, Ketki, and thank you asked, because otherwise this can look like very simple linear process. It's not. And you have highlighted few important things. One, that it is that this is one, frameworks are basically to enable our understanding. They're not to govern our life. So this enables that these are, and each one has a value. Now, if there is sometimes I would possibly download, if I see there is a very risk to this situation, I say, I want you to stop doing this, right? That's a download coming from me. So maybe it is required. So I'm saying each level has a value. There is fact by based listening has its value. I think, and every moment is an opportunity also to go deeper. And that's your question. Other important thing is container. We're creating a container for transformation. Container has a boundary. Time boundary is an important boundary that coaches have. I remember when I as a part of my inner journey, I took 2 years of Jungian analysis with analyst, and I was also studying at Jung Institute of Boston parallelly. And that time, my analyst had very clear space and time boundary. There was a space, there was a table between us. This is the boundary. That's where the that's where the consulate starts. And she would end on time. And she later helped me understand that that creates reliability. And the psyche gets ready to go deeper. Then psyche understands when it creates safety that this is over now, right? So it's important. Now, given that, how do we change our relationship with the time being a resource, which is like 10 minutes, 5 minutes, to time being from a chronos to kairos? A time brings 1 minute can create a deep stillness. And I think it's a journey, as you say. We will do some practice in a while. I'm listening to you, and I'm also noticing what I'm listening within me. Anil's example or other example, actually the earlier example, Vijayshree's, that I'm also listening to my judgments. I'm listening to my anxiety of time. I'm listening to my back, which is hurting a little. I'm noticing that. And I let that drop a little to create space. And I see a part of me jumping to give you a solution. And even now, a part of me is jumping. I'm noticing that too. And then I wonder. And then I hold that space with you. And in that space, sometimes you will find yourself. Sometimes we both will be lost for a few minutes. And sometimes something may happen. So I'm just curious to experiment with stillness and silence, where chronos shifts to kairos. Right? Those 1 minutes which are, and not post upon minutes, but just holding on to that. And holding on to our vulnerability. You must have, I think you might have surprises when coaches tell you, this was awesome, and you had no idea what was awesome. That's because you were not there, and that's awesome.
That is true. That is true.
You know what?
Yeah, I think what you're saying, sorry, go ahead, Anil.
Sorry. What Manish, what you narrated just now, the term that comes to my mind, and I'm trying to be in that zone. So instead of doing something, let us get into being zone, not doing zone, but being zone. And the moment we shift from doing to being, the complete, the surrounding, the perspective, the presence, everything changes. I'm trying to go there. Let's see when do we reach there. Let's see.
So what I've also understood from what Manish shared is that just as different levels of listening, probably there's merit in each one. I'm also thinking that there is merit in being and doing both. It's just a question of when do you need to be and do and how much. And that's really where my question and curiosity is around that. How do I transition from that sense of togetherness, that common space, being dissolving, individuality, to then pulling out without it being jarring? Just make it seamless to transition out into a space where we both leave the space less, less disturbed from the state we were in. Let's just put it that way.
I will say, let's hold this question, Ketki, and let's come back to that. Maybe something gets answered, and it's a great exploration. Let's explore that a little bit, if that is okay with everyone. Yeah. So
thank you so much. Yeah, sure.
Thank you. So I want us to move into the second part, which is now this is an example of transformational space. How do we hold it? But what is the importance of inner journey? And what is the way to take that journey? And maybe what question Ketki asked, maybe a clue to it. Now, I'll share my screen again. I wanted to share with you a kind of a map I made. This is my favorite quote. This quote is like defines my work in a way. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I will meet you there. So as coaches, we are curious about what Rumi said 800 years back. What is the field? That field that when we step into that field. So there is further lines to it. Let me say that. Rumi says further, when the soul lies on that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Even the phrase each other does not make any sense. Even the phrase each other does not make any sense. So very similar, the each other, you, I, all dissolve in that field. And when we are in that field, even the time boundary and anxiety is something to notice. Where is it coming from? There is a part of me that tells maybe this needs to be closed well. That's a part which wants to control and have a good closure. Noticing that part too, it is good part, it is functional part, it is valuable part, it is helpful part, but noticing that's a part, that's not me still, right? So that may give some space between that part and me and some space for creativity, because in that space there lies tremendous creativity to do something else, right? So with that, let me share with you a map, and this kind of started for me when almost I don't know, 9 years, 2012 actually, when my son was born. Until that time, I had a very focused life. A man, a business executive. I used to work with Unilever earlier, and then became a consultant. And my life is going rapidly. I know how to do it. I was guiding others. I used to talk a lot. And all of that was going on. And then my son is born, and I look at this little being and I think about what is the world I want to give him. And then I looked at what is the world I have. And then suddenly I felt that, there has to be something beyond. The world I have is not mine. I have just taken on some armors. And at that stage, I was also taking my coaching training with Leadership That Works. And Martha Leslie, MCC and a coach author, she was coaching me as a kind of a supervision coaching or something like training coaching. She was coaching me, and she asked me to get in touch with what is happening. Where is your coaching struggling? And and she said, think of an image and share that. And I had an image, and maybe it will be difficult to see because I'm already on shared screen, but this was the image. This came in my book, Trading Armour for a Flower. So the image is that I am walking out of a formation of soldiers, and then I walk further, I drop my armor cracks down, and I see a little child, and I go to the child, he gives me a flower. That gave me a thought that I told Martha that I want to trade my armor for a flower. That led to a poem, and then that led to a book. So what is the poem? And I'm just going to read that poem. Maybe it would help someone. Men were raised to fight, denied of their inner light, sacrificing themselves for the tribal pride. He is letting go his archaic conditioning, the compelling need to be right. He is letting go his archaic conditioning, the compelling need to be right. He's returning to his core, trading his armor for a flower. Warrior at heart, champion of humanity, he rises again. So that was my short letter to myself. And then I started noticing that my armor is falling apart in every space of my life. Because once you notice a crack in your armor, then it kind of, that's where the light comes in. But then the chipping starts. And then everything falls apart. And it took almost 7 years of rigorous journey, counselings and peer coachings and even men's circle and women's circle I became part of to just understand what is this journey. So this is the map I made at the end of it. And I'm just sharing this as our map. Receive it as our map. It may not resonate with you. That's fine. So there are three spaces I realized, that three thresholds to take this journey. So as I'm inviting you to notice that what are the three thresholds you need to take or you want to take. The first is overcoming past conditioning. And thanks to Sri for mentioning that. And there are different conditioning. For me, what I noticed, beliefs and identities I had around what is right, what is wrong. Even as a coach, what is the right coaching? What is the wrong coaching? Just like what Ketki was saying, what is right and what is wrong? What is so all those are the conditionings we have about relationships, and they show up in our being as a coach. What is known and unknown? What is our relationship with known and unknown? If I don't know, is it wrong? Is it not there? If I don't know, is it not there? Or it's still there? I don't know it yet. For example, with gender, I had this struggling exploration. What I don't know about being a woman. I don't know. My friend told me, you don't know what it is sitting on a bus for 3 hours and not going for pee. And I said, I don't know that. So I acknowledge what I don't know, and that starts the journey. What is strong, weak? What emotions? Our own relationship with the emotions, our conditioning around emotions. I had a conditioning around sadness. So if my client says, I'm feeling very sad, I would say, do you want to have some water? I rescue my client from sadness. I don't know that sadness is a doorway. And all these led to poems, reflections, and dreams, which I have weaved together in this pathway. So for example, on sadness, surrendering shows us a way to true love. For sadness surfaces our deepest longing, our most dreadful losses, melting all armors that protected self from self and precipitating into tears till our soul is bare naked. I didn't have this awareness of sadness. I was escaping sadness all my life. And this journey, so what is the journey? Noticing what are the conditioning about all those things. And coaching will always show us a conditioning. Coaching will show us where the armor is hurting. You know, armor starts hurting. I want to open it. And when we show us, then we notice and we go in. So that's the journey. The second part is healing deep wounds. Once we start overcoming the past conditioning, we become available to step into the unknown, to do the wrong, to be okay, to be vulnerable. All that allows us to now visit our wounds. And these are often early experiences, which I guess you know, about betrayal, about shame, shaming of the body, right? And as I started connecting, I started owning up my sexuality differently. And so I was not uncomfortable when the client is struggling. I was able to hold that struggle also. And abandonment, that is our inner child often, you know. What is my relationship with that inner child, that innocence, that curiosity? So these are some of the deep wounds. And when I started connecting with them, I think the child with the flower showed up. And then the child starts talking to me, and the child kind of creates space for me to be myself. Or child enters into my conversations. And then I'm able to be more present and more lively and still be present to the wounds, right? Whatever happened. So that is important to notice. I think we know that. And the third part, as I start noticing that, I start becoming more okay with, it's not they're healed, but I think I start becoming okay with them. And that's when I start reclaiming my inner power. So and in my journey, I started experiencing my own powerlessness, and it started happening in dreams and in through dreams, through reflections, I started noticing three aspects of power. One is power to be free from the institutional contracts and paradigms. And I will tell you a story about that in a while. Power to rule, which is that to masculine power, that I can touch my own inner sovereign and come into my power. And that's very important. In fact, in one coaching conversation, a coachee helped me. That's because we were in this level 4. And he says, and I say, you know, I'm struggling. And he says, I can see that since the beginning of the coaching, you know, they also notice us. So he was an owner of a company, medium-sized company in Chennai. And he said, what's happening? And I told him about a situation that I'm going through. Now, you should not, I mean, there is shoulds. Shoulds are level 1, overcoming past conditioning. Coach should not. So because in that space, it's a space of trust, and something showed up and I shared that. And then he said, I want you to, there's a coaching telling, I want you to watch a movie, King's Speech. Now this coaching, I want all of you to watch, because coaching, when you're executive coaching, you're coaching power. King's Speech is a story of a speech therapist, a speech coach, who is actually coaching, real story of King George VI, right? And then his struggle with the power. So this power to rule, when we step into that, we are able to show up fully with our coaches too. We understand what is the trade-off of a power, right? And then most important power, which almost came in the end of my 7 years journey, which blew me off. And I had already compiled all of this into the book, and I thought, oh, it was 8 chapters actually. And then suddenly I found the 9th chapter, which is power to dissolve, which is a feminine power, which women often know naturally, because they know what is dissolution every 28 days. Men also know, men also know, right? But I think it is, men have not direct access. So power to dissolve is power to also rest, lean back. You see my struggle? Power to rule, to show up was there, but power to rest was not there, and backache shows up. So that's actually, I'm still in this pathway. I'm not out of it. I'm not offering you as a great, I know it. But power to dissolve is to also say, to let go, to dissolve in the Gaia, to surrender, to say that 150 years of selling Coca-Cola is enough. We can dissolve now, right? But then a masculine power gets stuck in legacy, leaving the legacy behind. Feminine power knows that legacy is in the earth. So feminine and masculine are available to both men and women. So women may also have the struggle to dissolve. So that's the journey I started taking. And that kind of what it results into as a coach, just to bring that into the context, that when I let go my past conditioning, there is self-knowledge as differentiated to the knowledge given by others, given by shoulds and woulds of the life. Now, and then in coaching experience, it shows as curiosity. Then I become more curious about others' experience than bringing my own judgments, because I'm aware of my judgments. And I know that they show up, and they show up like clouds. I notice them and I peek from behind and I say, I'm curious. I have a judgment, but I'm curious, right? That's what happens. When we start healing the wounds, there is self-love, there is self-acceptance and love for my own self, for my own struggles, for my own inner child. And that generates tremendous compassion for our coaches, even in spite of the context they come from. And when we start reclaiming our inner power, we become more empowered. There's more self-power, power that comes from within. And then I am more available to co-create, to that level for co-creation and service to others. So that's the kind of a journey. And maybe at this point, I can share with you a quick story of my coaching experience, which I shared with Vivek and Jayashree, and they encouraged me to, I think they liked it, so maybe I will share that. Now, this story is, and if you have questions, they possibly will get answered here. So let's see. So for me, one of my early coaching experiences was I was working with a leading consulting company, one of the big fives, as an external facilitator and coach. And they sent me on an assignment to a coal plant in Raigad, middle of Raipur. And it was amazing because I flew in a charter flight from Raipur to Raigad. And this particular client of mine was, I think, heading the plant. He was a plant head of this coal plant, or second in command. And he, when I met him, he was big, unshaven, and he had very low energy. When he sat down, like as coaches, we noticed the energy and very low energy. And he talked about how this doesn't make sense, that doesn't make sense. And my mandate given to my client as well as coach consulting company was that we are here for 5x, 5 times growth of this business. And you have to help these guys become more effective to deliver to that growth. And there were some frameworks given to us, P is equal to P minus I, and all those amazing frameworks, iceberg. And he had all these reports. And when he kept his report on the table, the report slided and fell in the dustbin next to the table. And I said, okay, maybe that's where they belong. I don't know. So this was a moment of like something wants to go, let go here. But I could not have any breakthrough in the first session. By breakthrough, I mean that we kept talking and he talked about his life. Cut the long story short, I came back from the first session. I was going to the second session. Again, in the charter flight, there was a newspaper. I was the only one. There was, I think, 4-seater plane. I picked up the newspaper and there was a news of Colgate, if you remember. It was around that time. And the news also had sub-newses, the local news about how these companies have created a massive with the environment. And when I looked at, my heart cried. I felt disgusted in my body. I felt that I'm stuck. I can't do, I have to do my mandate and all of that. And then I realized he's stuck too. He's also stuck in his role. He's talking about he's stuck and I'm stuck. Now that's the first level of mirroring. So my conditioning is I can't go beyond that. I have to do what my client has asked me to do, what my consulting company has asked me to do, and I have to show up. So now I was here with him. And I am in touch with the memory that when I was joining this consulting company as an external consultant, my friend who was already there, he told me, you have to lower down your activist energy if you want to be in the business world. And I felt so disgusted. So there is a separation I noticed. There are conditioning I notice on me. Conditioning that I have to complete this assignment if I've started. I have to keep my stuff outside. All of that conditionings were there. And I said, he started with his, again, sense of helplessness in the system. And I kind of got in touch with my helplessness. I say, I understand what you're saying. This must be frustrating to be in a system to do the things that you are not aligned to. And I feel the same. And in that moment, something shifted and he said, he got in touch with his conditioning and he says that, it's not what I wanted. And I said, so what did you want? And he talked about his story of his father being a NGO leader and his grandfather worked with Gandhiji to protect the forest. And now there he and his conditioning of that he has to be head of the family, he has to keep earning, he has to do all of that. All these conditioning were coming in the way. And I realized as he was saying, he was talking about me, he was mirroring me. Those were conditioning coming in me. And so in that moment, I started feeling my own separation with my roots, my own separation with my grandfather. He grew up, my grandfather created a mini forest in my village, and my own separation with that and my own wounds about being away from my own land and not being my childhood about being in forest and now flying these planes, but not feeling belonging to these planes. And that wound of belonging opened my heart, and I kind of asked, I took out the newspaper. Now I was beyond those conditioning. I took out the newspaper, put in front of him, and I said, I just want to share with you. When I read this, my heart cried. I want to know what happens to you. And he was quiet. He had little teary eyes. And then he tells me a story, I walked into the village and there is black water coming out of those pumps because we are pushing so much effluent into the earth. And something happens to me. Now I'm stepping into my power in some way. And I remember it because the story is also published in one of the coaching books, Leadership Coaching That Works. I think that's the name of the book by Martha and other people. And in that moment, what appeared to me is that I have to say something is bubbling, and now I'm in service. And even if this assignment ends today, even if my client comes to know my consulting company I was more bothered about, and if there is nothing available to me after that, I got to be in this space with him. And then almost this, I don't even know what was this till the sentence. So sometimes when you're in the level 4, it appears from the space. And I look at him, and I asked him, if your grandfather comes in this room, what would he tell you and what would he tell me? And when I said, after that, I was like, oops, I have asked this question. You know? And then he looks at me, he looked outside the window, and I had looked outside the window, and there was this whole green field with black mine in between, almost like wound on earth. And we kept looking, and then I don't know when, after a long time, I said, I think this is a good place to stop. My request is visit your childhood, visit let your grandfather talk to you, and tell me when I meet you again. And then I walked out. Cut the long story short, a month down the line, during this month, I also connected with my grandfather is no more. His grandfather was also no more. I connected to my father. We talked about, I had my own inner journey during this time. But when I went back, I meet this guy. I can't recognize him because he's shaven, he's nicely dressed. And he says, come, I want to tell you something. I said, what? He says, I went to the village. I connected to my grandfather and he said, go to the village, go to our old home. So I went there. And then I met the villagers. I spent the night there, he said. And they told me about the stories of the stories. And then they said, only if we could block your exit of effluent. And I told them, block it. Now he stepped into activist. And, and I was scared of stepping into activist, right? He steps into activist, he says, block it. And then he went and spoke to the MLA, who is also the owner of the company. He spoke to the owner of the company and the MLA that, sir, our people are suffering. And they are very upset that your own factory is creating this. And so they have blocked. And now MLA says, now he steps into power, MLA steps into power. So his healing happens. And MLA says, do whatever it takes. I don't want this to happen. My father created this. I don't want this to happen. People loved my father. And so he says, he got sanctioned for 9 effluent plants, out of which 3 were already built in a month's time. And he moved as a sustainability leader of the company. Now, when he says that, I'm like, oh God. And I come back within, I think, a month. I resigned from that role in that company. And I'm now working with UN and with UNEP, with grassroots, with Greenpeace. So my own journey shifted. So who coached whom is the question. I don't know, right? The question is that we both kind of took this journey. And with that, I would pause now and maybe invite you to take a moment to connect with what is the journey asking you. And I'll stop share. Just take a moment to see what is this journey doing to you right now. What is this experience or this conversation? What's happening in your body? And maybe it's also a good time to take a short break. And my request is take a 5 minutes break, but do it in kind of with little stillness. So avoid looking at your phone and messages, but just whatever you do, getting some water or going to the washroom, if nothing else, just walk in your room and walk to the corners you have not walked before or walked in a while. So just take these 5 minutes and then we meet in 5 minutes again for a little experience. So please do that. Maybe 4 minutes now and come back.
All right. So let me pause recording and we'll see you in 4 minutes. Thank you, Manish.
This time I want you to... Okay, great. So now is the time I want you to... You've been sitting for a long time, and let's do some movement. So if you can, and you switch on your camera and come on the screen, that would be wonderful. And if you can stand, you can adjust a little bit so you can stand, and so this much of you is visible. I think in next 15 minutes, we'll do this activity. So a few minutes we'll do it together, and then I will guide you into a small breakout of breakout pairs to experiment. It's an experiment, right? So remember, one of the big skill of a transformational coach is to step into the unknown. And to step into the unknown, being awkward is of great value. My teacher says being awkward is of great value in this work. So we'll do something that may be a little awkward, but it's going to be fun. So I guess I'm on spotlight, you can see me. Okay. So here is what I want you to do. Take a moment to first arrive in your body. So just stand, feel your feet on the ground. You don't have to look at the screen right now. You can look at that in a while. But just feel your feet on the ground. Feel that sense of connection with the earth. Feel your back. Become aware that there is a space behind your back. And become aware of your parents and ancestors who always support your back. The solid back. And become aware of your shoulders and the space around that. Without looking, you're aware. Awareness can travel anywhere. It's a great resource. Then become aware of the space above your head, your connection with the sky, and feel the sky and the earth connecting through your spine. And now connect with your heart and become aware of the space in front of you, in the sense of a tender, open heart. Great. And so now, take a moment to recall what we were talking before the break. And maybe as we were talking about the story, or earlier as we talked about past conditionings. So take a moment to recall anything, any past conditionings, any traditions, any conditionings, any beliefs that might be alive for you, any wounds that might have come to your memory, any longings, any sense of power or powerlessness that you might be in touch with. In short, anything that you're in touch with, just connect with that for a while. Just pick one thing. And to ground it a little bit, think of your context as a coach or it could be professional or personal, and think where is this struggle showing up? Where are you struggling? Where are you feeling a little stuck? Just connect with that for a moment. It could be something like I struggle maybe in getting assignments, and that's also fine. It could be that I struggle to hold the space or anything. Just connect with that for a while. And I'm often going to offer you a short pathway to do inner work in a very quick way. So just connect with that. Great. And if you don't have a clear idea, that's fine too. Now you can look at the screen, and I'm going to ask you to show you something and then ask you to do. I'm going to ask you to embody the shape of that struggle, that challenge, whatever you got in touch with. Just pick any one and embody it as a shape. So for example, if it is something that is making you feel very burdened, maybe this is your shape. And you may have a unique burden shape, but when you look at this, you know this is burden, right? If you're feeling stretched in different directions, maybe this is the shape. You're being pulled in different directions. Or you are at cross purpose. Or you want to do something, but something is holding you back. Or you are not really sure or hesitant. So whatever that is, I invite you to just jump in and make a shape. While standing, make a shape. I'm also finding my shape. So just take a moment to make a shape. Find your shape. This is a shape that embodies the struggle that you're experiencing in your practice or in life. Okay. So this is my shape, as you see. So I want you to make your own shape. It would be great that each one just hold that shape. Once you have that shape, hold that shape. And also become aware you are not this, let's call this shape stuck. This is your stuck. So if you're stuck, then you're not stuck by yourself. There may be forces around you, maybe something outside of you that is pushing you. Maybe these are internal forces, your fear, confusion, or maybe these are external forces. Another person, situation. So just imagine what are the forces around you. Holding this shape, keep holding your shape. And then you may intensify the shape. So you really feel stuck, because unless we are totally stuck, we don't move. And stuckness is a great creative process. Everything in nature is stuck before it's born. Even a child is stuck before it's born. So just feel into this stuck. It's a good thing to have, because this is a creative process. So feel into it, let it intensify so you can't hold it anymore. Intensify it a bit. And then see if the shape wants to say something. If this shape wants to say something, to say to yourself a sentence or a phrase. Tired of offering. That's my sentence or a phrase. So just say your own phrase. And now, as you're holding it, allow this to move on its own. Not where you want it to go, but where the body wants to go. Because no shape is sustainable, no stuck is sustainable. So allow this sculpture to move on its own wherever it wants to go. Where the leg wants to move, where the back wants to move, just allow it to move till it comes to a natural still. That's a new shape or sculpture too. And when you are in that natural still, hold for a while and see what phrase or words sculpture 2, your emerging future sculpture, wants to say.
You are so confident.
Great. And then you can let it go. So I have not seen you all, but I hope you have done this activity. Now, this is called stuck. It's a part of social presence in theater. This is to activate the wisdom of body, and it's really quick. So I will just repeat the steps which you will do as pairs. Vivek, in the meantime, you could make the pair. We'll do a 10 minutes breakout. I think we are a little above the time we planned, but is it okay to do a 10-minute breakout? But if there is less time, I can possibly skip the breakout and just do it here. What do you think, Vivek?
So request I'm getting, Manish, is due to festive reason. People were appreciating if we could cover the majority part in time, and then people who have time can stay back and ask you Q&A.
Okay, so maybe we should skip the breakout, because breakout.
Yeah. So some people, I think, would love to attend the whole part of session, the important part.
Yeah.
So request is you also declare once the important part is over, so people want to drop off, and remaining people who have time would like to ask you questions.
Okay, yeah, I was prepared for 6 to 8, so I kind of planned it that way.
Yeah.
But no problem. I think we can always adapt. Letting go is a part of our journey. So this was just a quick practice. It's called Stuck. You created sculpture. I invite you to practice it a couple of times. But for now, because we want to complete this experience, take a moment to maybe I'll show you what I want you to do. That will be the best. Take your paper and pen, which a blank paper and a pen, and fold it into 2 parts. Or if it is just 1 page, draw a line in between. And then you draw the sculpture that you made, the shape that you made when you were stuck, when you were making your current struggle, make that sculpture on one side. And then when it moved, what was that movement? Make the sculpture on the other side. Just make a very rough, sketchy kind of drawing. This is one of my stuck from a earlier experience. So this is your current reality. And then you got in touch with your body. Your body naturally moves into something, which is the journey. And that's what you made again.
So a clarifying question, Manish. I think, this might be on behalf of audience, or I'm just declaring my question here. So one is, I think first one was easy, since which day. So like I was confusing too many choices to make, right? And the second one, when you allowed the body to kind of like be its own, how do you know? You quickly moved into the second one. How does one know that's one would stop at this second one?
The body knows.
Okay.
The body naturally stops, I mean, even right now, if you're sitting in the chair and we pay attention to the whole body, this is a shape, but I'm not going to stay like this forever. If I allow the body to choose, then body is moving backward and then it changes the shape. This is sculpture 2. So there is always body moves from shapes, movement, shape, movement, shape. So it naturally comes to a natural still. And that's when you know, yeah, this feels better. This is sculpture 2. So if you're not clear, you can try it again, and it quickly happens. It just takes 30 seconds actually, because what is interesting is how the movement happens. Now, the sculpture one is an invitation. That's the chip in the armor, that this is what I'm feeling. And then as I tune into the whole body starts moving on its own. And I notice where the movement begins. Is it beginning in my back? Is it beginning in my shoulders? And I notice that it moves to something else. And that changes my perspective. So we are bringing this whole challenge to the body. I'm just offering one micro practice here because I wanted to offer a micro practice for you to, there are so many, I mean, you can take counselings and other coaching sessions to take your inner journey. This is one way, coming from social presencing theater, very quick to, I do it almost daily, right? Embody my stucks and I get a new insight about what my body wants to do and what is the new journey. So once you have written these, whatever sketch you have made, that is fine. Just write 3 sentences one about the sculpture 1, one about the sculpture 2, and one what shifted. What shifted? What made the shift happen from sculpture 1 to sculpture 2? It could be that could not hold it anymore, so it shifted. It could be that I accepted. It could be my leg moved. It could be I lowered myself. All of that is information about your inner journey. All of that. So in a simple act of body, the whole journey is captured. And all it requires is to trust and just write it. Once you have written it down, maybe because it's already time what we planned, if you can write your 3 sentences as one single para in the chat. So we look into what is the collective journey about. That would be really wonderful. If you can just write it as one single para in the chat. So that it's, because if you enter every time, then it will get distributed. So if you can write as one single para. You 3 phrases, it could be just 3 words also. One about sculpture 1, one about sculpture 2, and the third one about what joined the 2, what shifted from 1 to 2. So we stepped into the inner journey and we are now making it visible, because that's the important part. To give language to the inner journey is a very important aspect of the journey. and to be able to bring it in the social space, that's called social resonance. Then it creates resonance and the body receives that from others. We could, since we are not doing a breakout, it may be helpful to do it now. So Vivek and Pragya have written. Maybe if 1 or 2 more come, it will be awesome. Okay, so let me read as they are coming. And this is our social poetry. This is, we looked into our current challenge as coaches, as leaders, as professionals. We looked into our current challenges. We let the body, we activated the embodied wisdom, and then we translated that wisdom into verses. And now this is social poetry, which is social resonance, a social mirror. And this is our collective journey. So let's read it and receive it and see what it says. Too many choices to make. Think, pause, be in the now. Burden, lost, busy. Move and open the door. Twisted and confused, freedom. Move to natural and relaxed state. Something holding me back. Able to move freely, shifted, letting go the past conditioning. Longing for a better space, but stuck for what want of others to join. I love it here, others will join. I have to create space for others to come around their way. Exploration of who of the coach, difficult. Should I not? Relax, breathe, just do it. Stopping me, open the space and be free. Tied to expectations and responsibility, broke free, acceleration. Beautiful. So beautiful. Thank you. I just wanted to let you hear what you have written. So it's not just your journey, but it is kind of mirrored and emphasized. And I know each of these 3 lines hold the story of your transformation from current struggles. And I sometimes write it, and I don't have one right now, but I keep it as a bookmark. So it stays with me. And it has, you can double click it anytime and it can open a journey for you. So with that, I will come this part, my kind of part, I'm bringing it to close and open to any questions, any reflections. And if you stay long enough, I will read one poem for you too, but that's all optional. I know some of you may have to leave, but please feel free to ask your questions and reflections. That will be great.
So thank you, Manish. It has been awesome. I'm going to start my question and then creating a space for all of us to ask questions. In the initial part, that 4 listening things we talked about, right? And the slide you showed, that created image of infinity in my mind. The 2 dots coming together. I don't know whether that was meant by that. With your experience of coach, you yourself as a coach, what is the being of a coach, which is really ready for that co-creation? Since some of us coaches, we come from corporate background. In life, we are parents, elder brothers, wherein we are used to telling things. And I like your analogy of, we are camouflaging our consulting with, hey, I'm curious to know, but actually there is a evaluation I've already done. Very nice. So, do you have any suggestion of how does one move from that, I'm curious to know, to really being open to curious, or what is my client here to teach me? It sounds very nice on a slide, but how does it look like in reality? Absolutely. Of the being of a coach.
And I think that's a very important observation, and what you're saying, Vivek, that it looks great on slide, but what is the being? And I think it's an ongoing journey. It's an ongoing journey. The space that I entered with that client I was fortunate to be in that space. It doesn't happen always. And it's a journeying. It's a journey, just like in mindfulness. I think mindfulness really helps. So just like in mindfulness, I train my mind, I train to notice. First, notice my thoughts. And I don't get lost with my thoughts. I just notice them. There is thought. Yeah. And I have a body and I'm breathing. Okay, come back. So my 1 hour meditation at times is like maybe in total 10 minutes of actually being with the breath. Rest of the time I was noticing the clouds or the thoughts. So I think that noticing itself brings our attention. It redirects the attention. So to create that space, I think there is a lot of letting go. The being is of letting go. So as my past conditioning or something comes, now it may happen. Therefore, the journey is important. As you also have said earlier, the journey is important, that we take the journey in our own space. We keep doing that journey like we do coaching. We become a coachee. Like to be a Jungian analyst, I learned you have to do something like 300 hours of analysis hours. I think 200 hours before you get to training, and then another something 100 hours in the training. So likewise, I think all fields have this, you be the practitioner, you wear the white belt. So that part helps you to become more aware of what may show up. It will invariably show up. Because and I think the being is also, the intention is, I am here to learn, and you have showed up here to teach me. I'm grateful that you're paying to teach me. So there is a kind of a reverence, and that I have started even doing bowing. I mean, I didn't say in that story, when he said, talked about his grandfather, I went like that in front of him. My body was, because I kind of also trust my body, how it moves. So my body moved like that. And I think that created a space for him. And then we both surrendered, right? He was not a coach, I was not a client. He was not a client, I was not a coach. You see, even the Freudian slip is helpful. So what I'm trying to say is that letting go of my conditioning, and then letting go of whatever is coming up as my story or something, and letting go of other things that is coming in the way. And as I let go, then I remain curious, I remain compassionate, and I find courage to explore what needs to be explored, to say what needs to be said, or to be quiet when I'm needed to be quiet. So that's my kind of imperfect answer to a very deep question, Vivek.
Thank you. I picked up being is letting go. Yeah, the quicker you let go, I think it would help you to be. Thank you. Wow. Friends, unmute yourself. Come on camera. We still have around 20 minutes if you want to ask anything to Manish.
Between sculpture 1 to sculpture 2, what makes shift happen, Viviana? Very good question. I may ask you, Viviana, what shifted for you when you made sculpture 2? What started moving it? Where did the movement begin? Let's see. Where did the shift begin? Viviana, do you want to explore that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, no, I think I'm just make what is, when I'm compare what is the reality and where I want to go and what is the link, then I just answer it, letting go. But I don't know if, for example, if it is like in that situation, what makes the shift happen from? It's something like, I think it could be the awareness, one thing, but what makes happen, I do not know.
Yeah, and I think there is I don't know that, I cannot know that either. I think that is an important aspect as a coach. What will make your shift happen, I won't know. If I know I'm problem solving, I won't know. So the point is, your body knows, your system knows. So I think there is a bit around like this particular practice. This is a different practice. It kind of is training us into trusting the process in letting go. Because if I will embody and show, if I am if I have a stuck of something like this has been one of my stuck, that I'm overwhelmed with all the information, right? So I make a body shape. Now, once I'm in the body, I drop the story. Step one, I drop the story about overwhelm. And I connect with the body. How does it feel to be overwhelmed in the shape? The story may tell me, oh, there is so much, I need to climb, I need to go down. All that is story. Story doesn't help. So I drop the story, I stay with the body. And I intensify it. So I really feel it. I'm feeling the strain in my neck. And I'm feeling the load on my leg, one knee. And now I allow this shape to move on its own, allow the body to move in on its own. I stay with it as long as it wants to stay. But no shape is sustainable, no structure is sustainable. I cannot stay here till dinner. So I noticed the shift began in my stomach. I am breathing. My spine is coming up. And now my knee is moving forward. And now this hand comes down. I find change of direction of ankle. And now I'm looking at the overwhelm. My hands are open. Sculpture 2. Now it doesn't want to move anymore. This is the place. So it's completely surprising. I had no idea this is how my body will move. So when I intensify, pay attention, then something starts shifting. And this, I'm totally surprised. What is shifted is my breath and my spine. And this was the last thing to come down, right? So my body has a journey. Different parts of my body have a journey. And when I follow that journey, that generates insight for me. Now, that is the second part of coaching when we do the meaning making. But if we bring meaning making before, then we don't have exploration, right? So I drop, and there's no meaning making. I tune in the body. I let it move the way it wants to move. And it surprised the role that my stomach and knee played. Now, then I can do the meaning making later. What does that mean? What does that mean in my current overwhelm? Maybe I need to get upright first. I need to find my resource. Maybe I need to shift my direction. Then I can face the overwhelm. And right now, this is very fresh. I had not thought about. So always, what is what? So I stepped beyond knowing to not knowing. I didn't know this. So this is interesting. And I'm going to contemplate on that. That may change my relationship with the context. Is that helpful, Viviana?
Okay, so it looks like the body guides the guides, because there are like some things like the Tai Chi, or there is a slow movement exercise that is also the body, I think the body reorganize themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. So this was for this particular exercise. This is one kind of a way to activate our embodied wisdom to do the inner journey, right? So this is what you can do it for yourself, like for your own challenges. Practice it a couple of times and let the body surprise you, I would say. Because when body surprises you with a new move, because when you say Tai Chi yoga, they are structured patterns. So they will produce habitual results. That is level 1, which is good. We want habitual results too. But to go into the transformation of something, allow the body to do what it wants to do and let it be surprised. Whatever it wants to do, it will completely surprise you. So this is one practice, right? In a coaching session, the answer may be different, right? What allows the shift? The common things I can say is awareness, paying attention, letting go my own agenda, what I want to do, letting go my plan, just paying attention fully to how does it feel in my body, how does it feel in the client's body, and then noticing where the shift is happening. The shift began here. I noticed that. Then that got empowered. So I've paid full attention. So wherever we feel, noticing really with this peripheral vision, where is the shift happening already in the client system, in their reality, in their life? Where's the shift happening? When we bring attention to that, that gets empowered, and we keep moving, right? So, okay, I'm talking a lot. Should pause now.
Oh, awesome. Thank you, Viviana. Thank you, Manish. Okay, I think we can take one or two more. Anybody else?
I have a question, if I may.
Yeah,
Ketaki.
yeah.
So I'm envisioning like two possibilities, and maybe there are more. One is, and first of all, thank you, Manish, for that exercise. I think it was really powerful. I mean, I got it really actually got me deeper into thinking. But another thought struck me is that sometimes when we're making this body shift, it could just be that first sculptor state feels so uncomfortable. For the second one, instead of allowing your body to guide itself, it could be that your brain guides you into just changing the body structure to make it comfortable. And maybe therein itself lies another block. So I'm just curious, and I know it's more of an intellectual question, but I believe that I might be able to actually use some insights on that if you could shed some light.
I think one is, that's a great, thanks for that question, Ketki. One is that I think I would say I have used this practice in coaching itself and with very transformative results. But I would say, like any practice, first practice with yourself. So that's the inner journey, right? So I would say that Ketki practice it a couple of times, many times, I would say. Like I think for some of us, it is almost like a weekly, daily practice. So do it. Like you have a challenge, give it a shape and see. So once you do that, you will find an answer to that. Mind is always there. Mind's role here we are saying is witness. Mind is witnessing. Like I was reporting, you don't have to report to anyone. I was reporting what is happening with the body. So mind plays a witness. It kind of notices what is happening and notices where the movement is beginning. In fact, unconsciously, without awareness, we do it all the time. I'm sitting right now in a particular shape, my hands and fingers in a particular way. After some time, this will be unsustainable. So body will move. So there is what we're trying to bring is a synchronicity between mind and body in this activity. And that is one way of taking the inner journey. So, so what and yes, maybe the mind notices that I am sitting in a little slouch and that is creating a stress on my body. So I may ask my body I may tune into the body and see where it wants to go. So it wants to release. Or you are saying that, oh, I should not be like this. I should be like this. So you see that is a block, possibly. It's not a block, but it's like you got into the should of it. And it's okay to notice that. It's okay. Because mind has come to assist body and that's okay too. So just noticing that this is what has happened. But actually it is in service of the well-being of the client or you. So that's my my take on your question.
Yeah, I think what's striking me, at least personally for me, is do what you said. I think that's really resonating. Do it multiple times, and not expect that when you do it one time, some magic will happen. But maybe do it multiple times, and who knows, that itself might be a journey. Just understanding more deeply. No, thank you. I think that's very useful.
I will offer one suggestion to others too. I wanted to do that part, but I think on time I didn't do. So I will send you I'll send Vivek some links and questions and all that, which if it is possible to share or maybe not, I don't know. But I think I'll just say that what I do is I do two processes that help. One is journaling. So, which is that invitation to you is to just take a moment to reflect, write in your journal. If I take a helicopter view of my life, what is giving me energy? What is frustrating me? And then you reflect on these three things that I shared with you. And this I've done with others also, which is what are the conditionings which are coming in my way? just knowing the way. I think already Shri has named her conditioning, and I think somebody else was here who had, so name your, this is the conditioning that is coming in my way. For example, right now, I'm noticing my back and my conditioning coming in my way. I have to stand strong. I cannot take support. Now that is a conditioning that I'm a man, and I notice that. Then second thing is, what is the wound beneath it? Or what is the earliest I remember this conditioning? What is the childhood memory I have of it? And I kind of become aware that, yes, the way my father, some relation with my father, earlier learnings of with my father, that he is a self-made man and he wanted me to become a self-made. Now, that's great, but now back hurts, right? So I'm aware of that too. Now I notice. Then the third area is power. Where in my life I'm longing for more power, or where am I feeling powerless? And I think, and I immediately got in touch. I did this exercise today, that if I'm going to you, I should do my inner work. So then I got in touch with, when I was doing that, oh God, that's true, because I'm not expanding my work, because I'm not collaborating, and I'm not seeking support, because I have to be on my own, everything I've got to do. Now that's a great reflection. So you can just take these around these three questions. And then what I do to really land in the body, how do I feel in the body? Let me make a shape of what does it mean when I don't take support. So that's what you saw me doing, right? And then I'm asking and refusing. That's what I'm using. So I took, and then I notice the body, what wants to move first. I'm just waiting. And I notice that I have to come in my alignment. I have to lean in. So all of that. And then I stay with that and contemplate, what is the body telling me now? Because that's a non-linear information. Linear information is what mind knows. And that's what we are struggling with right now in our questions. I want to find a linear logical answer. Body will give you a non-linear answer. And that may surprise you or perturb you. So notice that. So I took these three questions, and then I kind of tuned into. Okay, I'll share three questions, Ketki, again, broadly on these three areas. Okay, I have it here. I had written it down for you guys, but it's also there in the last page of the book, kind of journaling question. So first question is, what past traditional conditions or beliefs are getting in your way to experience life fully? What past conditionings or beliefs are getting in your way to experience life fully? So, and you can revisit these questions many times, because they keep showing up. And maybe there is a particular experience with a client, a particular time you're getting bored. Thank you, Vivek. That's so helpful. I could not do a lot of typing today because I'm lying on bed. So I wrote it while lying on bed. So this is first question. Second question, take a quiet walk down the memory lane of your childhood. Is there a part of your childhood that you haven't met in a while? If you could connect, what would she or he say? A part of your childhood that you haven't met in a while. And maybe that part is related to this first question, right? So it's in relation a little bit, but it could be something new. What would that part say? If you connect with a part of your childhood you haven't met in a while, and that is connected to the first question, what would that say? So this is kind of, it's an easy way to enter into the past conditionings. And the next question is, where in your life you feel stuck or powerless right now? And I had an extra question to that. If you had all the power, what would you do? So then you get up and make that stuck. Now you have integrated the other two journeys already. Now you make that stuck. Stay with it. Stay with it. Like, I can't see, this could be the stuck. Like, just your body knows. When you make the shape, you have an idea that this is my stuck. And then you tune into it, feel it, and then see where the movement is beginning. And stay with it. Let the movement happen on its own. So it's interesting that my movement is only this bit, and that gives me information that slowly open to this. It may blind you, this particular insight. So I have a question around it that I'm not ready to see something. So whatever that is, right? So then you will get some information, then you contemplate on that and play with that and experiment with that. So, and then see what happens. Now, this is for your inner work. This is to aid your inner work. You can then slowly bring this to your clients also. And they will sometimes do it. Oh, it's 58. It's time to go.
I know. Ketaki is right. Making meaning out of the sculpture and the shift is the key. Thank you. Thank you so much. Manish, thank you so much. I don't know. We should have budgeted 2 sessions for this. I didn't know this will go so deep. But on behalf of ICF Pune chapter, governing council, and I think we have people from all over India, and plus from our cohort. I know Viviana. Viviana, we met during our mentoring session, if you remember. Yeah. So thank you so much, friends, for staying back. Some of you, just to share, we record this and we'll upload in YouTube. You shall know that soon. So it takes typically 2-3 days. Manish, if you are open, you can share part of PDF slide or whole deck. Some people ask for it, so I do email.
I'll do that.
And everybody wish you a happy Festival of Lights, Diwali again. Repeating, make a note of Aniruddha's instruction about upcoming function in December. And if you are a member of ICF Pune chapter, do send your nomination for the upcoming GC. Yeah. Next month, see you soon again for the monthly event. We shall announce the session again. Manish, thank you so much again. It was lovely. It was awesome. I'm taking a lot of space. I just realized the door is valuable only since there is a space. The glass is valuable since there is only space. Otherwise, we fill up stuff with that. And might be as a coach, my mind will be valuable only if there is a space.
Yeah.
With that, have a good evening, and whichever time zone you coming from, have a nice remaining day.